There are games we say everyone needs to try. Some like them, some don't, but they're so important to gaming, they're so good that you have to play them. Hi folks, today on this video, 15 perfect 10 out of 10 games you need to experience at least once. Starting off with number 15, it's God of War 2018. I often say this game transcends the medium. It's that good. It's a fantastically well-executed story with flawless gameplay mechanics, all packaged in a brilliant no-cut camera. Every facet of the game comes together perfectly, and you can't help but be impressed. The story is phenomenal and doesn't require prior knowledge of the previous God of War games to enjoy, though it certainly adds to the experience. I've said many times, it sets a new standard for storytelling and presentation of video games, and not a lot of stuff has met that standard in practice, to be completely frank. Moving on to number 14, it's Marvel's Spider-Man. You may have seen the pattern here, but Sony's first-party 2018 lineup was truly fire. Spider-Man is the perfect game to showcase the medium. It's got a fantastic story, it looks amazing, and it's a great introduction to the open-world concept for people who aren't familiar. Sure, it's very Ubisoft-like in inviting you to completely clutter your mini-map with various activities and collectibles, etc. But I would like to say it does so in ways that are smarter than most. Okay, yeah, the crime activities get a little repetitive, but whipping your way through New York City as Spider-Man is a dream come true. Marvel's Spider-Man's not just a great game, it's also a great introduction to what games can do that other media can't. If you haven't tried this one yet, you definitely should right now.
Don't panic! Don't panic!
And number 13 is Uncharted 4. While the Uncharted series has been a PlayStation staple for a long time, Uncharted 4 really stands out, and it's due to the jump in storytelling. It is so much more, and this is such an overused word, but cinematic than even previous Uncharted games, to the point where like Naughty Dog met a point here, and I think The Last of Us Part 2 carries that torch pretty well. I'm not saying other companies aren't capable of this, but we have not seen it at the level we have with Sony. And like, is this the high point? Is this the final achievement so far of top-level Sony storytelling action game? They're probably going higher after The Last of Us Part 2, but Uncharted 4 is really damn good. Moving on to number 12 is The Last Guardian. 10 years in the making is a long time, and the development process was as much an epic as the game itself. This PlayStation 4 title has all the trademarks of a Team Ico project: great art direction, minimalist UI, a mysterious story, and engaging puzzles. You play as a boy in a ruined castle who befriends a massive cat dog, a creature named Trico, and you have to work together to solve puzzles and escape. The Last Guardian, to me, is a masterpiece that masterfully blends story and gameplay. It often lacks the hand-holding seen in other modern games. It wants you to figure it out, and does a wonderful job of inviting you to do so. Now here's the thing, it is not going to be for everybody. If you're somebody who doesn't want to think while playing a game, this is not the game for you. I remember on release, this was one of the most divisive games even among reviewers of it. There were people who gave it a 10, and then there were people who gave it a 5. That's a big gap, but like a lot of work that the creator of this game has done, and this is something that goes all the way back to games like Ico, there is a level of poetry in the interactivity of it that goes beyond what a lot of people think of when they think of video games. This game is the work of a genius. Trico's AI and behavior is incredible and makes the creature feel real and alive rather than an obedient companion. And there's a direction towards that works spectacularly. As you progress, you form a deep bond with Trico, especially through segments where you're separated from him. Like I said, not necessarily for everyone, but it is a game to be experienced both in gameplay and as a piece of art. And number 11 is Shadow of the Colossus, another game by some of the same folks that made The Last Guardian. Shadow of the Colossus. It's a lot more accessible if you ask me than Ico or The Last Guardian. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't make either of those two games bad. I love everything that they've made, and I love them both for similar and different reasons. Shadow of the Colossus, however, is a masterpiece for everybody, I think. There's not really a lot you have to learn in terms of the idea of the game. It's a game about killing gigantic monsters. So adrenaline-wise, it fulfills that, but in story, in narrative, it also gives you exactly what the other two games do. You play as a young man attempting to revive a loved one by defeating these massive creatures called Colossi, and the game is both a spectacle and a masterpiece that bridges, I would say, art and pure gameplay. The minimalist narrative leaves you with a sense of mystery, invites you to piece the story together, and despite being a game about boss battles, it's intentionally short because that's what it needs to be. There's not a lot of meat on these bones, but the meat is very, very good. It's a bit like Beautiful Joe, meaning From Software kind of stuff. I know that probably sounds like a bizarre comparison if you haven't played the game, but if you have played the game, then you probably get what I'm talking about. Anyway, Shadow of the Colossus is a fantastic game that if you haven't played, you should, for real. At number 10 is Hollow Knight. Yeah, I know, it's become a meme about when the sequel's going to release, but listen, you can beat this game before Silksong comes out, and I totally understand if you want to hold off hoping that they'll announce a release date any day, but come on, they already confirmed that it's coming this year. Look, it's coming, but playing the first Hollow Knight is no reason to wait to play the second Hollow Knight. It's like, oh, the wait generated a desire to play Silksong that maybe I wouldn't have if I played Hollow Knight. Let me tell you, if you've been waiting for Silksong for all this time and haven't played Hollow Knight is gonna make you want Silksong. I mean, Hollow Knight stands out in its mechanics, its world building, its atmosphere. It's essentially a perfect Metroidvania game. I'm sure somebody will jump in the comments and attempt to one-up Hollow Knight, but we're talking perfect game here, folks. Of course it's approachable. It's a platformer. If you want to compare it to something, I guess you could say it's like Mega Man, but well, obviously a lot more modern. Hollow Knight is emotional, it's challenging, it's rewarding, and it's cheap. It's like, let me check. Yeah, it's $15 on Steam right now, which is absurd. Hollow Knight is a steal, whatever platform you want to play it on. And number 9 is Okami, a pioneering game with unique visuals where you play as the deity wolf named Amaterasu. It's Zelda, but different. It innovates, it dazzles, it's a piece of art. Has a story based in Japanese mythology that is awesome. The art direction looks like traditional Japanese ink painting, and it matches the theme absolutely perfectly. And the visual aesthetic isn't just for show. It integrates with the gameplay through innovative mechanics like drawing on the screen to solve puzzles, such as restoring a bridge or slicing through obstacles. The game wants you to try things and figure problems out. It's basically the opposite of a hand-holdy game. I mean, maybe not the opposite. There's games that are probably less hand-holdy, but Okami is special and everyone should give it a shot. At number 8, it's Tomb Raider 2013. Now, unlike the Uncharted series, where I picked the finale as the best game, I personally think the 2013 reboot is the best in the Tomb Raider trilogy. This is a reboot done right. It starts with a different version of Lara Croft, a younger, more vulnerable version who, over the course of the game, becomes hardened and battle-ready. That's what it sounds like anyway. In practice, this game is a chaotic roller coaster ride of extreme highs and lows from a narrative perspective, but all of them fit together perfectly. It's a game that lacks any sense of identity crisis, despite the fact it's all about Lara Croft essentially developing a new identity. And that lack of identity crisis in the creators of the game makes the transformation of Lara Croft seem perfectly reasonable, despite, during gameplay, going from being vulnerable and inexperienced to basically killing an entire island full of bad guys in the space of an hour. Plus, the narrative pacing is cinematic, the action sequences are cinematic. This could be a movie, but it's not. If you haven't played it yet, then you're totally missing something big. Moving on to number 7, it's Stray. Stray's not necessarily the greatest game of all time, but it's most certainly a game everybody needs to play. You are a cat in this game. Yeah, that's the real selling point of the game. I mean, don't get me wrong, the game's really good, it's got a compelling story, it's got compelling gameplay, it does everything that it's supposed to exactly right. And it is also a perfect example of how you don't have to put 400 hours of content in a game. It's only like 5 hours long, but they're a really good 5 hours, while also being very different from what we usually get from an adventure game. It's got incredibly immersive details, the environment, the inhabitants. I said the story was good, and I mean that. The city you're exploring's got a history, its inhabitants are obviously comrades, and you want to figure that stuff out. It's intrigue and mystery, and it wraps you up in it very quickly. And the game manages to tell that story from a cat's perspective in a believable way. Please, please, game industry, make more of this. We don't need every game to be 500 hours long. I like the good ones that are 500 hours long, but not everything has to be that way. Stray is perfect. Not too long to be pointless, not too short to be pointless.
A lot of this isn't going to make sense to you, and I'm sorry about that.
At number 6, it's What Remains of Edith Finch. So a few spots back, I said the word at opposite of handholdy a few times. This is the opposite end of the spectrum. You want to talk about handholding? What remains of Edith Finch would be the most handholdy game that I would still technically call a game. You can be handheld too much and be completely infantized with inputs in a way that is just annoying. And if you're annoyed with handholding, I could see why you wouldn't like this game, but I promise you it's good. And if you can tolerate a certain level of minimal gameplay, the story it tells is totally worth it. It uses various mechanics to help rather than hinder the storytelling. This is the type of game where if it was a movie, you wouldn't want them to stop the story and start singing a song, but they do it in a way that's credible and worthwhile. And I think you can figure out, I'm not literally saying that there are songs that interrupt the game. There's a lot of gameplay types that go on in this game, and they all happen to be in service of the story, which is excellent. You play as Edith Finch, last surviving member of what's said to be a cursed family you're investigating. The game's mechanics shift to match the narratives, and that is risky and impressive. And that's one of the reasons why I like saying you need to play this game, is because it's an instance of a massive amount of risks being taken and every single one of them paying off. It's a fantastic example of what to do if you are going to do what it does. And number 5, while we're still talking about indie games, Inside is another one that I think is totally perfect. The visual storytelling, the emotion it draws, the innovative puzzles. It's a fantastic achievement. It gives me all of the same feelings Limbo did. Don't get me wrong, Limbo is a fantastic game too, but Inside scales it up and delivers a nihilistic narrative in total black and white, giving you really just enough to understand the world, but intentionally leaving you in the dark over questions like, what are they doing? Why are they doing it? Who's doing it? Where are we? Why is there this child that we're controlling? You don't know, and you might not ever know, but the world's immersive, the puzzles are perfectly designed, and the one lasting thing you'll get in this game is an uneasy sense of horror mixed with a kind of unhinged wonder of what the hell's going on. But like, why? Why though? I mean, this game will stick with you for years after you play it. Moving on to number 4, it's Sekiro. Shadows Die Twice. The Soulsborne games are great, but Sekiro simplifies the formula a lot to be less esoteric. It feels both familiar and fresh. It reimagines the classic Soulsborne formulas to emphasize timing, deflecting, understanding enemy patterns, and it also does this with a unique tone. The story is presented pretty clearly. We're not just talking to a bunch of people in cryptic phrases and trying to piece together the mystery ourselves. It's a little more accessible while introducing various mechanics that build upon what the Soulsborne games have done. There's a lot you could look at Sekiro and say, oh, that's almost Dark Souls, and then you look a little bit harder, or you play it, and it's a very different game. Where Soulsborne games use exploration as the central pillar of storytelling and progression, it uses a grappling hook to introduce verticality with the same effect, which was a brilliant move at differentiating it. Sekiro is unconventional. It's innovative, which, I mean, it's hard to innovate after you've kind of established a whole genre, which, From Software is a company that has established multiple genres. It might be a Souls game, it's even actually closer to a genre that they already established in Tenchu, and despite kind of being a more straightforward game than those, whatever words I would like to come up here with, esoteric is obviously one I'm reaching for, but it's just a fantastic, rewarding, challenging experience. And number 3 is Ghost of Tsushima. Like, come on. This game probably has the most beautiful open world design ever. The sweeping hills, the dense forests, the golden trees, the way it moves, it's a painting in motion. I mean, I know that's an overused saying, but this game looks good. It uses the environment to guide you. The wind itself directs you to your objectives. It's all so reliant on very natural visual and audio clues. And I don't just mean natural as in nature, but also supernatural because the real world doesn't have wind that directs you places. That's one of the things that makes playing a game like this really different. And I'm not saying other games have used anything like the guiding wind in Ghost of Tsushima before, but not to this extent at all. This is easily the best it's ever been used. It all combines to create a highly immersive, super real, highly lifelike game world. And then on top of that, it's also very respectful to Japanese storytelling and stylistic methods. It's really a masterpiece of open world storytelling in a way that's accessible but also totally worthy of calling itself art. And number 2 is Control, a surreal masterpiece from one of my favorite developers, Remedy. It defies convention, it intertwines supernatural mysteries with psychic powers, non-linear storytelling, just various weird devices. I mean, at one point you have a floppy disk that they've locked down because it contains telekinesis. This is just bizarre stuff and it's so much fun. The story is super intriguing. The storytelling is really interesting. The main character's constantly talking aloud because she's having this dialogue with somebody that you don't know who it is. There are so many questions about this game, and frankly, I don't want them answered because they get my head going in various directions, and that's most of the fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, the story is fantastic, but control is weird, but it's also pushing the envelope of what video games can do in some unexpected ways. I love the exploration elements where most games will funnel players towards checkpoints. Control lets you explore the oldest house and does this in a way that doesn't feel wandering meaninglessly. It's great. I love this game. Every time I play it, it doesn't matter how many times I have played through it. It still feels like new, uncharted territory. I love it for that.
Hey look, I'm a knight.
An English shield. Where did you find that?
Over there, lying on the ground.
And finally, number 1 is A Plague Tale: Innocence. A medieval game with really great storytelling, beautiful graphics, casts you in the role of a young girl on the run, protecting her brother. It's got a lot of what makes The Last of Us good, but also mixed with a different type of emotional core. Obviously, games like The Last of Us or God of War exist, but Plague Tale has its own spin on that type of a tale, and it's fantastic. It's both heart-wrenching and heartwarming, but it never gets to that sappy dedication to the triumph of love stuff that I think would undermine tension, something that is very hard to do, by the way. It does a really good job also of making you feel kind of helpless. The stealth mechanics are intense, and they do a lot in terms of amplifying the emotional response to the narrative. Whether it's evading soldiers or navigating massive hordes of rats, these frightening challenges rely more on intelligence and quick thinking than combat, although there's certainly some of that. You'll learn as much from failure as you will from success, which is something I love about this game. It never feels like it's punishing you unnecessarily. It's just a great game everybody should play.